Hey everyone, I'm Derek and welcome to AITA Reddit Stories. We're looking at some of the most popular and/or interesting stories from the subreddit where people post real-life situations gone wrong, and tell their side of the story and users judge whether the poster was in the wrong. Today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 AITA Boyfriend Stories. Number 10. AITA for being honest about my life with my boyfriend's sister who glamorizes my childhood. So, I 18F didn't have that great of a childhood. When I was 14, I was dumped at my uncle's house under the false promise that my mom would come back for me. I haven't seen her since. It hurt, but at least I was with my uncle, right? Well, I love him, but he had some severe mental health issues that he refused to acknowledge and that made living with him extremely hard. He was essentially this recluse who lived on the outskirts of a tiny town in the middle of the forest. He didn't take care of the house at all, and it resulted in me adopting things that are seen as aesthetic by kids today. I was essentially neglected. I will admit, at first I would spin my circumstances as I'm living with my odd and eccentric uncle in the woods in a small town. You could make a movie out of this, but I would always stress that it hurt me a lot. I stopped this line of phrasing and have fully embraced, is that the right word? My childhood, because I realized I was only kidding myself and that helped no one. This is where the issue lies. My boyfriend's sister, 16F, is super into the whole cottagecore and general aesthetic thing, and she seriously glamorizes my childhood, wearing hand-me-downs, thrifted items, being in the forest, etc. Anyway, last night she came home from shopping and she was showing us the stuff she had gotten. A lot of it aligned with her style, but then she pulled out her phone and showed us this board she had made that was inspired by my life. As I expected, it was more glamorization of my life. She would constantly say stuff like, "This is like X event," and then show some super saturated straight from Tumblr image. But this time I wasn't in the mood to brush it off. I turned to 16 and said, "Hey 16, I can tell you worked hard on the board and it's great, I love it, but you should know that my childhood was nothing like this and it really, really sucked. It's nothing like what you think it is. I'm happy you found a style you like, but it really upsets me when you compare my Truama to your Tumblr-made style. You've been glamorizing it a lot, please stop. It hurts me." Both my boyfriend and 16 looked stunned, and 16 walked out super upset. Boyfriend went to check on her, which is fine. He came back and said 16 is really upset at me. I tried to apologize, but she didn't want to listen. Boyfriend is on my side. He said that sometimes being blunt means you're an asshole and that's okay, but his parents are miffed with me now. AITA? Number 9. AITA for uninviting my maid of honor's boyfriend to our wedding? My 28F maid of honor, Mo, 30F, took my daughter, 11F, her daughter, 12F, and her boyfriend, 39M, to a coworker get-together at a beach park. Mo and her boyfriend got extremely drunk and drove with the kids in the car. My daughter called me crying, told me she was scared, and asked me to pick her up. After leaving the park, Mo had driven on the sidewalk, blew past a stop sign, and while all this was happening her boyfriend was laughing and playing music super loud in the car. At one point the BF looked back and asked the kids why they were crying, but didn't show any concern for them whatsoever. The Mo missed the freeway on ramp, which is when the boyfriend started yelling at her. Mo argues back and they end up in a parking lot. They continue to argue and my daughter exits the vehicle and takes her friend with her, MOH's daughter. On me, my fiance, and my mom way to pick up the kids, Mo boyfriend calls me and says, "Mo is getting a DUI. Come pick up your fucking kid. I don't know where the kids are. Fuck you." After picking up the kids and making sure they're okay, my fiance and mom decide to go over and help Mo. Kids are safe with me in the car. When they go over there, Mo is sitting on the ground near her car surrounded by cops and her boyfriend is yelling at her. My fiance says, "Can you just go away?" and then MOH's boyfriend starts yelling at him. My friend somehow didn't get a DUI, and my fiance drives her car back to our house. During the drive, she is continually asking the same questions and saying the same thing, e.g., "Why did the cops, keep asking about the kids? I don't understand, nothing actually happened." My fiance is pissed, says Mo's boyfriend isn't welcome here, our home, and isn't welcome at our wedding, and tells Mo that she should leave him. The next day my friend apologized and then quickly changed the conversation about how she didn't like what my fiance said and he can't tell her what to do. The worst part is, there is no conversation about the kids or their safety. which is a big deal to my fiancé and is one of his biggest reasons for not wanting the MOH's BF there. He never cared about the kids once. I support my fiancé in not wanting him at the wedding. My Mo said that if he can't go to the wedding, she won't be attending either. Our wedding is a month away. Am I the asshole for disinviting my MOH's boyfriend? I know inviting someone to a wedding and excluding their SO is typically an asshole thing to do, so we may be the asshole for disinviting him and not the both of them. For context, they've been together for almost 3 years and live together. Edit. There was a bit more that happened between my fiancé and Mo's boyfriend, and that resulted in him being uninvited from the wedding on the spot, when we got back to our home. When it happened, I was in shock, numb and in disbelief. She was still wasted when we got back and decided it was pointless to try to talk to her about anything in that moment. I've known her since I was 13, she's like family, and when I let my daughter go with her that day, I didn't think she would ever do something like this. After the event happened, about a week ago, we went on vacation and we didn't speak to each other until the other day. I wrote this post because not only was she, ex-Mo, downplaying what happened and shifting the focus to being mad at my fiancé, family and other friends were trying to talk to me about just letting her boyfriend attend the wedding instead of focusing on what she did, and I needed a sanity check. She is not Mo anymore, and after everything that happened, I don't think she's a friend either. I should have uninvited her on the spot as well, and feel stupid for not doing so. Number 8. AITA for calling my mother a sexist who is stifling me. I'm an adult woman in college but still living at home. I'm looking to move out at the end of August. Being an adult having to still abide by a lot of your parents' rules is rough, but my mom takes it a step further. She's a very controlling and paranoid person who's scared of everything, so me trying to exert control of my life has led to issues. She hates the way I dress. Every time I go out, there are comments about how this is too short or too tight, etc. She told me I'm attracting too much attention. I agreed that wearing sexy clothes can increase the odds I attract unwanted attention. But as a lot of women unfortunately know, rapists will target anyone. I'm not willing to budge on my clothes. I love dresses and heels and makeup. I feel comfortable and beautiful and free in them. I did, however, tell her I am always aware of the people around me. I only get drunk with trusted friends and carry my drinks at parties everywhere. I always carry a switchblade and pepper spray. I also know Kung Fu. That's still not enough for her. She wants me home before dark. Yes, I'm serious, that means during the winter she's calling me to come gone at like 5 p.m. I can't to go get gas at night. I can't to use the ATM unless I'm with a man. I can't go outside past midnight at all, even in my car, because I could have a breakdown. My car has never had a breakdown and is in great condition. So this of course has led to a lot of lying on my part. I'm not proud of it. We've had a couple big fights before, mainly when my neighbor, a young girl, was home alone and scared and called me to come over. My mom was confused as to why she wouldn't have called my brother, because what is another girl going to do? I was seething. I used to be jealous of my brother's freedom when I was kid, but I thought it was just because he was older. I quickly realized it was because of gender. I became a tomboy because I thought if I acted manly, she'd see me as being able to take care of myself. It didn't work. She's began treating my boyfriend like my supervisor. She doesn't want to let me go until I say he's coming, and then she's okay with me going anywhere. Recently we were watching The Handmaid's Tale. We both love it, and during one scene she was talking about how shitty it is that a lot of elements happen IRL. I kind laughed and told her she does those things. She was appalled because she's always called herself a feminist. She's always advocated education for women. She herself has a PhD and is the breadwinner of our household. She's all about girl power. It got heated. I told her, despite that she's put me down, made me feel like I can't do anything or protect anyone because I'm a woman. It got further and I told her I felt like my childhood was stifled. That upset her greatly. She's very angry. I feel bad because I know it all comes from protection and motherly love, but like she set me up to have to rely on men. AITA, edit. After posting I realized I forgot to mention my dad is on my side and has fought with her before on this topic, but my mother is stubborn and refuses to listen to him either. Number 7. AITA for refusing to loan my boyfriend $5,000? My boyfriend and I have been dating for about 3 months. We both love each other very much and I see a future with him. He immigrated to my home country about 3 years ago and is on a student visa, meaning that he has to pay exorbitant visa fees and full-fee student fees. His parents do not financially support him. I've always admired and respected his ambitions. He was recently talking to me about money problems, and basically asked if I could loan him $5,000. I'm extremely protective over my money as I work, study 24/7 to maintain my savings. Furthermore, my dad is planning to soon retire from the workforce after a heart attack, so I like having my savings as security, knowing that I could financially support him if needed. My boyfriend knows that I have about $55,000 saved up, and he also knows that I don't pay too many living expenses besides fuel, groceries, and a phone bill. I told him that I wasn't comfortable loaning him money this early in the relationship. He then flipped the conversation on me, getting angry at me because I'm planning on getting a breast augmentation which will cost me till to $10,000 next year. He called me selfish for spending money on my body rather than him. AITA? Number 6. AITA for being shocked that my friend will get married before me? I have this friend, let's call her Jane. We're in our mid-30s now, but we were roommates since freshman year in college. She's one of my closest friends and I know her super well. And I know that for all of her 20s, she had horrendous luck with her love life and was extremely insecure about it. She always wanted to get married and have kids and kept ending up with douchebags who would cheat on her, or man who straight up didn't like her, daddy issues, and crying about it. And I was always there for her through it and reassuring her how she won't die alone. But her love life kinda became a punchline in our group of friends, and sometimes she'd go along with it, especially once she got into her 30s and was still single. She'd say like, haha yeah guys, we all know I'm gonna die alone, all the time, and I know she was torn up about it, but we were always reassuring her that it's not the case and she was in therapy about it. Anyways, about a year ago she finally met an incredible man and they fell in love almost instantly. He proposed to her last week and she's just completely over the moon. I've never seen her this happy. This weekend we all went out to celebrate and all our friends were saying how we're so happy for her after a long and difficult road, and it was really emotional. For context, I'm still single, no boyfriend, and I want to get married too. But I'm not a pathology like she was, and so I said, I can't believe Jane will get married before me. She started crying and stormed out, and the evening was completely spoiled. I tried calling her this weekend, but she was hysterical and said that I didn't have to point out that she's so unlovable and it's a miracle she tricked someone into proposing. It's quite sad. But that's not what I meant. That's her own baggage. I apologized but also suggested she should talk to her therapist about that reaction, and now she completely refuses to speak to me and won't answer my messages. A couple others in our friend group are on her side, while some have said that she's overreacting and will come around. AITA? Number 5. AITA for not going to family dinners because they fit the time with my sister's schedule and never mine? I, 20F, work full-time, 8 to 5 MF. I am currently working from home due to world events. I also live on my own. My sister, 18F, goes to college classes in the evenings and works a couple days a week. Ever since my sister has started her evening college classes, a couple months now, every family event is centered around her schedule. Her college classes start at 5 in the evening, so our schedules overlap. Meaning, if we have dinner, they eat before I am off work to coordinate with my sister, so when I get there around 5:15 to 5:30, I'm stuck eating alone while everyone has already ate or sometimes is already leaving. The issue in this matter is my grandma's birthday party. My mom put it together. Same sort of deal, my sister had class 1, had to work until 5. I asked if instead of centering it around my sister's schedule, if she could be the one to eat early and we fit into my schedule this time. My mom said it made more sense to fit around my sister's schedule. When I asked why, because I literally couldn't think of a difference it would make, she said, it just does. I spoke with my grandmother and she said she would wait to eat with me, but everyone else wouldn't. She also could not understand the reasoning behind it, but she said since she was not the one cooking or planning, she didn't feel she had much control over it. I told my mom that unless we could start alternating, fitting with my sister's schedule one time then mine the next, I would just start skipping out on family dinners, and that it was not fun to always have to be the one eating alone. My mom told me I was being an asshole and immature about the whole thing. I just don't feel it's fair the way we are doing it right now. Mine and my sister's are the only schedules that need to be worked around. AITA here? Editing to clarify a couple things. Weekend dinners are not usually an option as my grandmother still works, by choice, on the weekends. So weekday evenings are usually better as she is not working. These family dinners are not a nightly thing, more of a couple times a month thing for things like birthdays, graduations, or sometimes just to eat, but it's not nightly. More like a couple times a month. My sister does not live at home either, she lives with her boyfriend, whole different train wreck, so she is driving to my mom's as well. Only adding this to clarify that they definitely could alternate between us since she is having to come over as well, they just don't. My parents are divorced and this is my mother's side of the family, so my dad has no input here. I do provide some of the food for the dinners as well. Sometimes I will bring a dessert or something, but usually I will provide some of the food that will be cooked, like meat to be grilled as an example, since I can't bring a side dish because everyone has already ate before I get there. Number 4. AITA for not paying half of my boyfriend's rent and bills? My boyfriend, 26M, and I, 24F, have been dating for just over 2 years. We've never lived together. In September 2020, my boyfriend took a job in a different city, 2 hours away, without asking me for my opinion or even telling me that he'd applied for it. It was his dream job and so not taking it was never an option, he said. He never asked me to move with him, but even if he had asked, I wouldn't have been able to. I live in the same town as my parents, who are both ill, and I wouldn't want to move away while they still need me. My job is also here. The city he's moving to is also nearly twice as expensive to rent in. This obviously caused some friction between us and we nearly broke up over it, but ultimately I agreed to visit him regularly. Since he moved, I've gone to visit him once or twice a month for a week at a time when COVID allows it, and it's not cheap. The train to see him is about $50 each way. We don't live in the US, but that's the currency conversion rate, so I'm spending about $100 to $200 each month to see him, and I pay half of any grocery shopping we do. I also rent my own apartment back in my hometown. When I visit him, I stay at his apartment, where he lives alone and pays around $975 per month in rent. Edit because apparently people don't get this. My job lets me work from home, so I work from his apartment. I don't take 2 weeks off work every month, LMAO. Last week, he told me that he wants me to start paying half his bills and half the rent for when I come to stay with him. Edit for clarity. I spend between 1 to 2 weeks there, so he's asked for half the bills and rent of those periods, not the total month. I told him that I wasn't okay with that for a few reasons. He's the one who chose to move to an expensive city without any of my input. I already pay $100 to $200 on train fares to see him, which he doesn't contribute to, and I have to pay for my own apartment. If I paid half his rent, my cost of living would be higher than his for a situation I didn't choose. He replied that it wasn't fair that his bills increased when I came to visit him because of the water, electricity, etc. So I told him that my train fare was the equivalent of that, and also much more expensive than just my portion of his water. So if he wanted me to pay half the bills, then he would have to pay half my train fare. This apparently wouldn't be fair as he's not the one taking the train, so he shouldn't have to pay. At this point, I just told him that either he pays half my train fare, we both move somewhere that isn't stupidly expensive, or I stop visiting. He told me I was being unwilling to compromise and the atmosphere has been frosty ever since. I don't think I'm being unreasonable here, but I've spoken to a few friends about it and the opinion seems pretty split, so I'm putting it to the Reddit hive mind. Edit. Oh, wow, this blew up overnight. I didn't expect the overwhelming response to this. I'm half expecting my BF to find this Reddit post now, but even if he doesn't, it looks like there's really only one way forward here. Thanks everyone for your input, advice and judgment. Number 4. Number 3. AITA for not downplaying my musical skills in front of my sister's in-laws? So I realize this is a rather petty family feud, but I want to see if I'm in the wrong. I, 25F, have a twin sister, Emma. She is getting married, and her in-laws are musicians. Emma is very academically gifted, I am very much not. The only thing she isn't better at than me is music. I built a career on playing the piano, while she has always been struggling with it. My parents invited Emma's in-laws over for a family dinner, and we knew they would expect me to play the piano, since my parents told them I'm a musician and they said they would love to hear me when they come over. They already heard Emma play before. Emma asked me to downplay my abilities and play worse than her, so she would leave a better impression. I refused, for 2 reasons. 1, I believe someone's talent is not another person's shortcoming, so me doing something well will not reflect badly on her, and 2, I wasn't going to make myself look intentionally bad in front of people of my own profession. Emma was furious and said I was just getting back at her because she keeps referring to me as the dumb twin in front of people. I said she is just throwing a tantrum because for once she couldn't keep up her better twin image. Our mom says I should have downplayed my skills because they are my sister's in-laws, not mine. But since Emma openly calls me dumb in front of my boyfriend, I don't feel like I was in the wrong for refusing. Especially since I didn't badmouth her, I just refused to lie about myself. Are my mom and Emma right and AITA here? Number 2. AITA for refusing to move in with my boyfriend even though he bought us a house? 2 months ago, I, 25F, found out I was pregnant and I was devastated. I have always been a planner and had an idea of how my life was going to go. I wanted to get my PhD, be married and have a house before I had children. I decided to go through with the pregnancy, and with therapy and time have started releasing some of my control issues and warming up to the idea that life is spontaneous and unexpected, so I can better adjust to the other curveballs life, and children, are sure to throw at me. My boyfriend of 3 years, 28M, has been trying to put band-aids on these problems instead. I explained to him that I've been trying to develop coping mechanisms for these unexpected moments so I can better handle them in the future, but he has been insistent that it's just harder for me and that I should just check off my boxes before the baby arrives. He has been trying to convince me to buy a house for 2 months, we already rent together, but I've been turning him down. We don't have the money to buy our dream home, and that's what I want, not a fixer-upper or a house we only kind of like. A week ago, my boyfriend took me out for dinner and then to go see a surprise. He led me to a neighborhood that is notorious in our area for being generally not the best and showed me his surprise. The house. He bought a house that was being foreclosed on with a loan from his parents, a separate loan from his brother, and his entire savings. The house is in horrible condition and will need to be gutted before our baby comes. There's mold, the exterior is just awful, the landscaping has been neglected for years, all the carpets are stained and dirty, the hardwood is damaged, etc. etc. Even with all the fixes, I just don't like the house. It's not to my tastes, it's not in a good area, I just dislike it. I sat on the partially dilapidated porch and just cried. This is not the house I wanted to welcome my baby in. I just can't even pretend to like it. I can't pretend I think this was romantic. It was dumb. He wasted thousands of dollars on a house I don't even want to step foot in. I told him I would not be moving in with him. I said I would not drain my savings or take out more loans to redo the house. I told him off for making this massive decision against my will and without my consent. I said if he liked the house, he could sleep there and have not let him back into our place for the past week. My parents think that he was an idiot for spending so much money on a house but think the idea is cute and that I should appreciate the effort. My sister thinks it's cute, my brother thinks it's dumb. They are split on being mad that I'm ungrateful and understanding where he was an idiot. Boyfriend's family has just been leaving hateful voicemails directed at me. My boyfriend has been alternating between furious and despondent. AITA for refusing to move in with him after he bought me a house? Number 1. AITA for walking out of a house after the host told me to feel free to leave because she doesn't like people in her house. Backstory. Dating this guy and his best friend was having a small party, if you can call it that. There were 10 people there at most. I wasn't invited but boyfriend, for lack of a better term, told me it would be okay if I came. Usually, I wouldn't go somewhere without an invite, but since this is his best friend's house, I assumed that he knew the situation better than me. I show up, go inside, meet the best friend, and she didn't know I was coming. Boyfriend says, "Hey, this who I told you about. I wanted you guys to meet." The best friend turns to me with a straight face and says, "Yeah, it's alright I guess, but feel free to leave because I don't really like people in my house." So I left. I turned around and walked out without saying another word. Now, to be completely fair, my boyfriend was shocked. He came after me and said that he had no idea that she would react that way but she was just having a bad night and that we should go back in and everything will be okay. Obviously, I left. He didn't come with me. But now he is texting me and saying that while she was a bit rude, I was even more rude for just walking out in front of everyone and that it made for a weird vibe with all of his other friends who were there. So AITA, did I overreact? Edit. I should mention, there is a language barrier here. She speaks Greek, Italian as first languages and I English. So honestly, her intent was questionable. But the look on her face gave me a weird vibe. Edit 2. Interesting conversation below. Does boyfriend have the right to invite someone into someone else's home? This is a tough one because it's sometimes yes, and sometimes no. I've done this before if the vibe was right. But mostly, I don't do it. I would just ask first. So I kind of understand if he thought it was a situation where it would be okay. But turned out not to be okay. Conflicted.